Do you have goals? I've got some goals. Sometimes they get lost. Sometimes they get changed, adjusted, altered. Sometimes I just kind of lose track of them, lose sight of them. But do you have goals? How are you doing on those goals? Jim Harbaugh has goals. The Michigan program, therefore, has goals. And they are now well stated. We're going to be able to track those goals specifically. He was very clear on Tuesday. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody being here. And my apologies. I had set up this live stream for noon Eastern time and then ran into some major personal situations that had to be dealt with. Everything's good. Wink, wink. Everything will be fine. So appreciate you hanging on for that. Don't have any fill-in hosts to jump in here when we have to deal with things like that. But that's why we got away from the major company. But we do have a few drawbacks because of that. There's just me. There's not 6,000 people on campus to make sure that the show goes on regardless. There's just little old me. Welcome in the Voice of College Football. Please, before you do anything, hit the like button. Even if you don't agree with me, maybe don't even like me, but if you enjoy the college football content, if you enjoy the discussion, the debate, the analysis that we aim to be the very best in college football, then please hit the like button. It helps the YouTube algorithms. It doesn't massage my ego. I could care less how many people like the video. I appreciate it, though, so separate those things. Doesn't matter to me personally, but of course, I appreciate it because it's a business venture. And of course, YouTube is driving the whole thing in regards to this particular platform. Therefore, the like button helps the channel. And it ultimately all moves in the same direction to help us continue to build this main channel and grow the other channels as well. We appreciate you getting us to 100,000 subscribers on all the channels put together. I did a little math last night, a little rough math. It didn't take a whole lot to look through the various channels and the production over the last 30 days. We went and exceeded far over 1 million views on all the channels this past month. So thank you so much for that. About 1.1 million views on all the channels. Before we get to the football, I will make mention, because it's in my head based on what I just stated, I found it interesting, but a bit perplexing and a bit disturbing that I saw two main viewers in the chat yesterday who both did not know that we've got a USC live show. And this comes up every few days that I see somebody that I recognize the handle. I recognize that they partake in the chats, leave comments. So they watch some of the content to a certain extent. And they were unaware that we had team channels or unaware of any particular channel. So please lock it in with a number of team channels. If you enjoy college football, most likely your team is represented by one of our team channels. We have covered just about half the Big Ten with Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Penn State. The Big 12 with Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia. The Pac-12, or what is currently the Pac-12, with USC and Oregon. The SEC with an SEC channel. Also LSU, Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia in the SEC. We have in the ACC Miami, Florida State, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Clemson channels, and also Notre Dame. All right, that's all set. Now let's get to the topic at hand. But first, let's check out your comments. Keep in mind that you can follow me on Twitter at MarkRogersTV. And so way back when, Ferris said, "Go Blue." 29 minutes before we were supposed to start. I hope Ferris is still here. And Ferris, if you are still here as the first commenter, 29 minutes before a show that started 35 minutes late, thank you so much for that, Ferris. Appreciate you being here. One Scoop John as well. So here we go. One Scoop John is kicking us off with the topic of the day. Jim Harbaugh at Media Days. I posted a video on my take on his various stops, not just his presentation at the podium, but also what he had to say to the Big Ten Network and then also a side session with the media that was 50 minutes long and was rather mundane and typical coach stuff, except for the last minute. And I addressed that in a video. Head on over to the Michigan channel, get my take on Jim Harbaugh's comments from Big Ten Media Days. But we are focused here on his 4 goals, therefore Michigan's 4 goals. Beat Michigan State. They did not accomplish that in 2022, despite everything else they accomplished. That would be the one thing that they did not accomplish within the Big Ten. They lost to Michigan State on the road. They've got Sparty at the Big House. Should be a great event, great site, hopefully a great game. Michigan State. So beat Sparty. That's number 1. And you would think to a certain extent, based on Michigan having won a Big Ten championship, it's been since 2015, 7 years since Michigan State won the Big Ten, and it's not quite the same program that it was under Mark D'Antonio, at least during his first half of his tenure, that should be a given. You beat Michigan State if you're Michigan. Well, Michigan State owns the series since Mark D'Antonio took over and established Michigan State as a first power in the Big Ten, then nationally. And even with Harbaugh raising Michigan during his tenure far above Rich Rodriguez and Brady Hoke's bar, that Michigan State, I believe, has won 10 of the last 14 meetings against Michigan. That does not sit well and should not sit well with the Maize and Blue. Losing to Michigan State on a regular basis. That's a regular basis. 4-10 in the last 14 games. Somebody checked me on that stat, but I believe that is the number that I came up with months ago, and it's been here ever since. So beat Michigan State, goal number 1. Goal number 2, accomplished in 2021, beat Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh finally got that done. They did not play in 2020. They were thrashed in 2018 as a pretty substantial favorite, a solid favorite, 4 points. And then, of course, losing by another 4 touchdowns in Ann Arbor in 2019. Michigan comes through against Ohio State, of course. And that really was the ultimate. That was the crescendo of the season. There was still a Big Ten championship to win, but that was almost anticlimactic by many of us who believed that it would be not 42-3, but a pretty easy Michigan win, and then the big letdown in the playoff and losing to the eventual national champion. So the pinnacle of 2021 was beating Ohio State. So that remains the goal, beat Ohio State. At this time last year, Jim Harbaugh made the statement that Michigan was going to beat Ohio State or he was going to die trying. So he put the caveat out there. He put the disclaimer that I'm not going to guarantee a win, but we will beat them, or I'm going to give it everything I've got. If it doesn't happen, I have left nothing. It's all out on the field. I've done everything I can. And so Jim Harbaugh delivered. Michigan delivered on goal number 2. So for 2022, beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State. Number 3, win the Big Ten championship. Michigan did that for the first time since 2004. Mission accomplished. That's the goal again this year. All 3 of those seem reasonable. The last one seems like a bit of a stretch, I got to say, based on what I see happening in college football, based on what I see out of the challenges out of Michigan, having not won a national championship since 1997. And I'm anticipating somebody putting in the comments section that that was a half national championship. One half of a national championship since 1948. Winning the national championship, stated goal. The Big Ten is the second best conference. When we have discussed places like USC, Oregon, Oklahoma, I've often stated, yes, those schools have reached the playoff. Not USC, but Oklahoma, Washington, Oregon, and for them to have won a national championship, or for us to think because they made the playoff that a national championship's right on the doorstep, those are two completely different climbs. To make the playoff versus winning 2 games against the 2 best opponents you will see the entire season, completely different level of goal. But Harbaugh put it out there, beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship, win the national championship. And again, I posted a video over on the Michigan channel, my take on Jim Harbaugh's run through the media at Big Ten Media Days on Tuesday. Josh is telling us that everything's attainable, possible, except the national championship. Well, of course it is. They just did it last year. And of course, beating Michigan State, I'm not going to say that's not difficult, but Michigan should beat Michigan State. Michigan should be the 10-4 that Michigan State is against them the last 14 meetings. That's what you would expect out of that rivalry. Billy, good to see you. Willie is a big Harbaugh fan. Hope Michigan keeps Harbaugh there forever. Makes players worse. Is a pitiful game manager. With a competent coach, Michigan would be a lot better. Try Baylor's coach, Dave Aranda, or Iowa State's Matt Campbell. Harbaugh 0-8 versus ranked teams on the road. Yes, he is. We put those numbers together during some sort of video. We put together a few. Oh, I know what it was. Is this the year that Michigan finally wins at Ohio State for the first time since 2000? Check out that video. We put a lot of good numbers together concerning Michigan's issues on the road against really good teams. Thank you, everyone, for the well wishes. Everything's under control. Thank you for that. Jeff says here, listen, Mark R., though this guy's dead about 15 or so years ago. Yep, 16. Only Bo Schembechler would have turned things around. Can Harbaugh do it? Maybe. Let's wait and see. It could happen. Turn things around. So I'm not quite understanding the comment, Jeff. The man beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten championship, went to the playoff, and finished in the top 3 in the country. That is basically what he accomplished. In many respects, what he accomplished in 2022 is at the pinnacle of what Bo Schembechler accomplished. Give me a season in which Bo Schembechler accomplished more than Jim Harbaugh did in 2022. Now, we can have the argument that, of course, the playoff did not exist, and Schembechler won a Rose Bowl, as he did, what, twice? 2-9, correct? 2-9, 2-8, 2-9 for Bo Schembechler in Rose Bowls. So there were 2 seasons in particular that Bo Schembechler won the Big Ten, only lost 1 or 2 games, won the Rose Bowl. Other than that, save 1985, which was an unusual season in which Michigan lost the head-to-head tiebreaker against Iowa, shared the Big Ten championship. Nope, they did not share the Big Ten championship because they had one tie as well. So they didn't even win the Big Ten, but they won the Fiesta Bowl against Nebraska and finished number 2 in the country, but without a Big Ten championship. So, Jeff, to be objective here, though I am not putting Jim Harbaugh in the class of Bo Schembechler yet, what Jim Harbaugh accomplished, if you're talking about turning around the Michigan program, he lifted the Michigan program from 5-7 prior to his arrival to a win over a top 5 Ohio State team, a Big Ten championship, a college football playoff appearance, a final ranking at number 3 in the country. Bo Schembechler never accomplished all of that in one season. I'm just laying out the facts. Bo Schembechler won more consistently than Jim Harbaugh by far. He has a better winning percentage than Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Bo Schembechler had a string of remarkable years in which, unfortunately for him, Ohio State was right there, talking 1972, 73, 74, 75, in that range. Then Michigan broke through and had a great run of going to the Rose Bowl, winning the Big Ten, 76, 77, 78, 80. But those teams were losing a couple of games and not winning the Rose Bowl, except for 1980 and 88. So if you look at it objectively, I don't know what Jim Harbaugh is trying to turn around. He has turned it around. Now, if you're talking about completing the entire deal and winning the national championship, that's the only thing that has not been accomplished. Win the national championship. Okay, we can split hairs and say winning a college football playoff game. That would be the step in between. If, let's say, this year they go to the playoff, win a game, then lose the national championship game, that's taking another step. But semantics aside and particulars, specifics aside, Jim Harbaugh has now, and he's only done it once. I get it. It's not like he's repeated this over and over. He's not Nick Saban, Urban Meyer. He's not accomplishing what Bobby Bowden or Tom Osborne or anybody like that has done when they've done it over and 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 over. He's done it once. Beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten championship, went to the playoff, finished number 3 in the country. So while Jim Harbaugh's body of work cannot compare to Bo Schembechler's by any stretch, because Bo Schembechler's teams lived in the top 10 from the early 70s to the late 80s, every year contending for the Big Ten championship, winning it more than anybody else during that stretch, going to the Rose Bowl more than anybody out of the Big Ten during that stretch. But they would lose games, and they lost a lot of Rose Bowls. So in one season, Jim Harbaugh accomplished something that Bo Schembechler did not. Beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship, win the Rose Bowl / go to the college football playoff. Thank you, J-Dub. And the only thing I've got to keep an eye on, it is 1 o'clock. I'm fine. I am good for a long, long time. I do have an appearance on the Michigan podcast with Steve Deace this afternoon. So I'm going to have to be on my game concerning Michigan football. I will leave the link in the comment section. Here we go. Please jump on board. Michigan Rick's here. David says the team up north does have a weak schedule this year. It won't matter in November when they come to Columbus and get beat by 4 touchdowns. Ed is asking if Harbaugh has adopted anyone today. No, he's just making very clear statements about that issue, which I admire, but I don't know that I don't know that he would make that public. Web security. Mark Dace is wearing a 21 Michigan jersey on TV. Is that a Woodson? Woodson was 2. Desmond Howard, 21. I don't know who's worn that since Desmond Howard off the top of my head, 21, but that's Desmond Howard. Our Ohio State jerseys in the household are currently, now these are old jerseys, most of them, and I'm counting the kids. We've got a number 7, Ted Ginn. That's who I connected to because of when it was purchased. 33, James Laurinaitis. 10, Art Schlechter, signed by Art Schlechter. Troy Smith 10. So a different 10 than Schlechter 10 with his signature. And then for my son at the time, Troy Smith 10. Those are the jerseys in the Voice of College Football household. I don't wear jerseys, though. Not a jersey guy. Even when I bought those jerseys way back when, I would wear them once or twice. I sometimes would wear them on game day. I'd wear my jersey on a Saturday afternoon for 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes, not all the time. It was no ritual. And I wore them to a couple games, but not a big jersey guy. Like, I would not want to be sitting here in a jersey right now. It's good to see One Scoop John here. One Scoop John is expecting a dip out of Sparty this year. And no surprise, generational running back this time, to my knowledge. Yes, we're in transition right here, so don't be thrown by the backgrounds. Michigan State had an outstanding season last year. 10-2, won a bowl game to finish 11-2. How good were they? They were a really good team. But much like the recruiting rankings, I think it's easy to see in college football that there are typically 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 teams a year. Maybe. Usually more like 2 or 3. It's usually about 2 or 3 teams every year. And Alabama's one of those teams all the time. But 2 or 3 teams. Alabama, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia. 2 or 3. This has been going on for 8 years now. 2 or 3 teams. And then for certainly 5, 6, 7, 8 in that range. Once you get to 7 or 8, it's a pretty good drop. Could you have envisioned Michigan State in the playoff last year going up against Alabama or Georgia? They would have played a game, I'm guessing, similar to what Michigan played against Georgia. So it's a pretty good tumble from the top 2 or 3 to 7, 8, 9, 10. Now from 7, 8, 9, 10, in that range on down the line, it gets a little muddy in my estimation, my perspective. You can go up to about 30 to 40 teams in college football that are pretty decent. If, let's say, Notre Dame has the 10th best team in the country and Purdue has the 30th best team in the country, based on what I saw last season and based on what I anticipate this season, there may not be a whole lot of difference between those two. There's a difference, but not a huge difference. Not the same difference as between the top 2 or 3 and 7, 8, 9. And Michigan State is 7, 8, 9. Or at least they were last year. I don't know if they're going to be able to play to that level this year. My prediction's forthcoming. All right. We have a super chat that came in. Appreciate that, of course. We've got Vandy Dandy in the house. Thoughts on Golden Blue Dudes saying SEC thinking of kicking out Vanderbilt? Well, I didn't know anything about that. So our guy GBD over on his channel must have said that the SEC is going to kick out Vanderbilt. Well, see, there's a little safety there. So understand that. If you're in the game of making conference realignment predictions, if you're going to make those kind of predictions, So there are information people that can go to specific information. And unless I'm missing something here, I wouldn't put GBD in that category where you're an information guy. You're Adam Schefter of the NFL, and you have sources. And not everything that you speculate on is going to come true, but there is real valid reason why you make that claim or that projection of what's going to transpire. Then you have people that spitball. And so when he says that the SEC is thinking about, if I'm getting this correct, so I don't want to speak for GBD because I'm going from off of what Vandy Dandy has to say about GBD. So I don't know how he phrased it, but if this statement here is accurate, that the SEC is thinking about kicking out Vanderbilt, then the SEC can think about all sorts of things. Now, whether those come into fruition is a completely different thing. So I could make all sorts of statements about what people are thinking about, what conferences are thinking about, what entities are thinking about versus what happens. So it doesn't sound like he made a prediction. He just made a statement that for whatever reason, he believes the SEC is thinking about it. The SEC is also looking over, as was stated during the coaches' meetings, 40 different playoff proposals, and some of those don't even involve the other conferences. So has somebody within the SEC looked at the value of Vanderbilt versus these other programs and thought, so I can't go either way on that. If the SEC would kick out Vanderbilt, would I be surprised by that? Yeah, I would be pretty surprised. We haven't seen a conference kick anyone out. We've seen, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just kind of going through the years, trying to determine, has anybody ever kicked anyone out? No, basically it's these programs determining there are greener pastures elsewhere and leaving conferences. So I don't believe that the SEC is going to kick Vandy out. Also understand the operation here just in regards to GBD throwing out ideas, and that sounds like that's one of them. But I can't speak specifically to that because I did not see the content there. We got Lawrence on the line. Lawrence, please, in the chat, let me know where you're calling from or who you root for. And we will get to your call in just a second. And I will drop the link here again. So Lawrence, I don't know if you can hear me. There we go. Appreciate that. Nice. We've got Lawrence on the line. Lawrence, appreciate you being here. Michigan State alum from Cincinnati. Very cool.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you being here. What's up?
Thank you. Hey, not too much. I just saw your tagline, will Michigan reach all of its goals? You know, as a Michigan State alum, I hope not, but realistically speaking, they can if they can repeat what they did last year and just top it off by beating Michigan State. It's going to be very competitive. You know, the big teams always in the East is a very tough road to hoe. And so I think Michigan has, you know, good coaching. I give Harbaugh credit. He finally got over the hump with Ohio State. Unfortunately, he couldn't get through Michigan State, and I think that's the Achilles heel that he has. Michigan State is just built different. We're just a little tougher. And I think when it gets down to the trenches, we're better. We've been hitting the recruiting trail really hard. We got a lot of four-star guys that Mel Tucker's recruiting that Michigan's not able to get. And so I think they're going to have problems in the trenches. Now, we have to go to Michigan this year, I believe. So, you know, we're going to see if the young guys can step up and really do a good job in a hostile environment such as Michigan, because they're going to want blood because we got Paul.
It's possible. Hang on just a second that I may need to take this.
If everybody else is listening and hearing me, What do you all think? Big Ten East is tough, but we beat Michigan. Well, we beat Michigan. We beat Penn State. Yeah, we got slaughtered by Ohio State, but that's every now and then. We've been able to hold off Ohio State the last few runs. They got one off last year, but for the most part, we know how to beat Ohio State when we all show up to play. Last year I was in the building and it was ugly, I gotta say. But I think we could rebound from that, learn from that. We beat the ACC champs last year, and it's one of those scenarios where we are just going to be ready with even better talent than we had last year. Of course, we don't have K9, but we got some young running backs who are ready to go. Receiving core is going to be good. We still got our quarterback. Defense is going to be tough because it's Mel Tucker tough. And so I'm thinking we're going to probably win 9-10 games again this year. Hopefully we can mess around, beat Ohio State, beat Michigan, beat Penn State, and end up in the Big Ten title game. I think that's the goals for this year. Win the Big Ten, get to a playoff spot. Even if we get to the Big Ten title game, it's a successful season for us. Everybody's underestimating us this year. They think we're going to see 8-9 games. I think 9 games is probably good, but we're looking at double digits every year now. We just paid our coach $100 million. So with that comes big time expectations. We're going to wait for the voice to get back. And I can't see the chat right now, but I'll respond to it as I get off. T. Lawrence Graxton. I'm Michigan State. I'm not just a fan. I am an alum there. I have a degree from there, a graduate degree. So for me, it's big time. It matters so much. Big Ten still expanding. Kevin Warren's talking about still expanding. Who do y'all think they're going to take? If we get Notre Dame, we don't have to expand any further than that. But definitely, if we get Stanford, Notre Dame's definitely going to come. So I see Stanford on the radar. Oregon, Washington, we might take them, we might not in the Big Ten. But Oregon and Washington have to really explore their options because the Pac-12, Pac-10 is going to be Pac-2 in a minute, and the Pac is going to be dead. Believe me. Big Ten's got East to West Coast now. We're in good shape. There's the voice back. Welcome back.
Lawrence, you didn't bank on taking over the show, did you? I appreciate that. Thank you.
I did. I will put this one in the archive.
I received a call that it was vitally important. I had to take that phone call, so I put you on the spot. I apologize for that. Thank you so much for doing that. But it looked, though, I couldn't hear anything, but it looked like just kind of carried on a conversation about Michigan State.
Yeah, the experts are saying we're going to win 8-9 games. I think that's pretty accurate. But with Mel Tucker getting $100 million, basically $95 million over 10 years, the expectations are way higher than that now. So that's been set. We're looking at being at least in the Big Ten title game. That's the expectation for me anyway.
Okay, so yeah, it's an interesting situation there at Michigan State. I've always been intrigued by the Michigan State football program because I don't know how long you've been watching and how long you've been a fan of Michigan State football. How long would that be?
Well, I can tell you I've been watching since I was a kid because I grew up in Cincinnati, so we always had Ohio State on, so the Big Ten was always a staple in the household. But every once in a while, I would notice Michigan State would take out Ohio State in the big game. Sure. Remember that game in '98 when I was 18 years old when they got that interception before Ohio State got that touchdown and shut down the Rose Bowl dreams. I became a fan when I attended graduate school there. So that's been about 2010, 2011 when I really started dialing in.
Actually, to be more specific, it shut down a national championship dream. That Ohio State team would have played in the BC at the first ever BCS championship game.
True.
Won that game. Anyway,
I think that was Saban. Was that Saban?
That was Saban. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ohio State was up 19 points in that game. So, because Michigan State has always fascinated me because they have extremely going back down through the years before Nick Saban, George Perlis, always really hard-hitting, hard-nosed, tough teams. It's a tough football program. That's what it was built on, being tough. They weren't always the best, the most talented, the fastest, anything like that. But from the time I started watching in the late 70s up until the time that Mark Antonio showed up, except for a few highlights, a few peak years. 1999 would be one. Plaxico Burress won the Citrus Bowl, had a really good season, 10-2, top 10 team. Percy Snow, Lorenzo White, that group in 1987 won the Rose Bowl, won the Big Ten championship. Just a lot of 7-5 kind of seasons for Michigan State. Then Dan Pino jumps on, and bam, he really maximizes the program by developing talent. Didn't necessarily recruit that much better, just developed talent and just got that team to play out of its mind for the first half of his tenure. And now it's kind of settled before Mel Tucker backed down into a 7 or 8 win program for that 3 to 4 years after going to the college football playoff, and actually had an awful season, as you well know, after the playoff season at 3-9. Then Mel Tucker shows up, and we have this 10-2, 11-2 with the bowl win season. And now
beat Michigan twice. He's 2-0 against Michigan.
Yes, I am so curious now to see if Michigan State is all that, if they are going to be another superpower in that division consistently.
I think they have a shot. Mel Tucker's understanding that talent wins a lot of games. Michigan State has a tradition of taking basically rejects from the bigger schools, Ohio State, Michigan, because it was at one point in time a regional recruiting program where we take 3-star athletes and those guys will have chips on their shoulders and come ready to play. That's where the toughness comes from, because we're always doubted, we're always underrated. And I think they go into games with that chip on their shoulder and they always want to show up to play. Mel Tucker, surprise, surprise from last season, even though we took a beating from Ohio State. I mean, we beat the ACC champions last year in Pittsburgh. Pat Narduzzi, our former defensive coordinator, and it's all uphill from here. From here, we expect to win. We expect to be in Big Ten title games. We expect to win the East, and he's doing a great job recruiting with 4 stars. I mean, that's something that hadn't usually happened in Michigan State, but now the reality is Mel Tucker has that swag. He has that toughness about him. If you've seen any of his pregame speeches, on Big Ten Network or even on YouTube, he hypes those guys up. He tells them all the time, we have a better football team. We're tougher. We put the work in. And I think with that, plus the talent he's recruiting, I mean, the sky's the limit for us. And, going into that Michigan game, I mean, I know people got on the team about having rings with the New Year's 6 win and putting Michigan on there. That's the biggest game of the year. We don't care. I mean, Ohio State's always a great team and we want to beat them. But in the state of Michigan, the only thing that matters is beating Michigan. That's the only thing we hang our hat on. And so if we beat Michigan, our season's set. And so for us, if we beat Michigan, we're trying to get up and beat Ohio State. We're trying to beat Penn State. We're trying to dominate. And that's the attitude that Mel Tucker brings to the table.
Lawrence, appreciate you being here. And again, I appreciate you being a host for 2 or 3 minutes. That was phenomenal. Thank you. I know I put you on the spot and I apologize for that, but thank you so much. We've had a situation where it's just gone back and forth, and I could not take the risk of missing a phone call in that situation. But thank you so much for that, Lawrence. And call back.
Hey, no problem. We stay ready. We stay ready in East Lansing anytime.
That's it. Phenomenal. See you, Lawrence.
Bye.
Again, our stated topic of the day, in light of what Jim Harbaugh presented on Tuesday at Big Ten Media Days, was 4 stated goals: beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten. Okay, they did 2 of those 3, and even despite the loss to Sparty, were able to accomplish the other 2 and win the Big Ten championship, which that's the important thing in my eyes, because then you get to the playoff and it doesn't matter who you lost to before that. Ask Alabama, typically lose a game, but beat the teams they need to beat down the stretch to win the national championship. But the 4th one, win a national championship. Let's hit up J-Dub. He's on the line. J-Dub, what's going on?
Yeah, we'll see. Michigan's got to survive a trip to Kinnick in week 5, and that won't be easy this year. Michigan State, I have to say, when I think of Michigan State, I think of 49-7 and 38-0. That's what I think of Michigan State. So,
yeah.
I'll worry about them some other time. Just kind of like a little, just go away. But
Well, J-Dub,
Harbaugh,
we were going through the exercise of a +1 with you the other day, and actually one of my matchups from last year was going to be an Alabama-Michigan State Sugar Bowl, and those are the first two scores that came to mind. Were, of course, 38-0 for anybody that's not familiar. 38-0 Alabama in the 2015 playoffs against Michigan State, and then going back to the 2010 Capital One Bowl on New Year's Day, Alabama wins 49-7 against an 11-1 Michigan State team. That was impressive too.
yeah, and that was Saban's by record second worst team. That was a team that had 3 losses.
Sure.
and Mr. D'Antonio found out a few things at that game.
As you well know, J-Dub, I'm not going to take you off track here, but just one last note on the Alabama thing would be you could take that 2010 team and just, instead of sending them to Orlando to the Capital One Bowl, have sent them to the national championship game against either Oregon or a rematch against Auburn. They only lost that game, I think, 28-27 to Auburn and Cam Newton. And who knows, they might have won the national championship. The same thing with the 2019 team. Yes, 2019 team that missed the playoffs because they had the 2 losses, the 2 pick sixes by Auburn, and lost to Auburn by a field goal, doinked the field goal off the upright. Of course, they lost to an all-time great LSU team by only 5 points. I said immediately when the playoff selections were made, Ohio State, Clemson, and LSU are phenomenal. They're great. They're undefeated. But Oklahoma earned that 4th spot. But Alabama's one of those 4 best teams. So even Saban's worst teams could have marched into a national championship type situation, and I would not have bet against them.
Yeah, if there had been, like some people wanting this 8-team playoff, or as you and I discussed the other day, the New York 6+1, and you put 2010 Alabama, put 2013, maybe even 2013, 2019 Alabama in them, and the people who hate Alabama now would really hate them, because you think, for as great as LSU was in 2019, they survived because of a bad Tua turnover in that game. LSU was being destroyed in the second half.
Yep.
And there's no way they would have wanted a rematch. Well, because it could have played out like the 2011 rematch.
I misheard what you said there for a second. I thought you said there's no way they would have won. You said there's no way they would have wanted.
Would have wanted. No. I'm not saying they would.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. They easily could have won. They were a fantastic, incredible team. I'm just saying they would have preferred not to have that rematch.
For as much as I have well documented a few benefits or a few lucky, and I'm not going to say that Alabama was lucky, but they had circumstances work out for them a few times to pave the way. They've also had horrible near misses where their teams, and you outlined 3 of them, 2010, 13, 19, 18 and 19, or 19, yes, where they could have easily had a good enough team to at least participate in a playoff. Absolutely.
And they're 3 seconds and a blown offensive pass interference call from stopping Deshaun Watson and making it a 15, 16, 17 3-peat.
Yep.
But I mean, it is what it is. They lost the game. You give credit to Clemson and you move on. I'm just saying. I mean, in a different world, this all could have looked a lot. It all could have looked a lot differently.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hey, now, the important message that I have to deliver here today is to remind everybody about the thumbs up button and the Amazon link. Now, come on. We've been over this over and over again. Get the Amazon link. Do your shopping on Amazon, because you're already going to do that. Help the man out. Go ahead and hit that link. It's costing you $0, just like the thumbs up, and you're helping out the show. Very simple. And as it says right there, as the tag says, you just use the link in the description section. You do your shopping like I did the other day with a little landscaping stuff. Maybe you're buying an air fryer. Maybe you're buying something for the wife. Maybe the kids need something for school coming up. Amazon, Mark Rogers TV link, bing, there you go.
I should now be prepared with that banner for the closing J-Dub tag promotion. That's phenomenal.
I like to go out that way. Hope everybody has a great day. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Thanks, J-Dub. Always appreciated. All right, my man J-Dub breaking down Alabama. Yeah, it's amazing to think about. Yes, Alabama benefited from some circumstances at times. The most famous for me and the most ridiculous was the 2015 that I've documented many times. I won't go through the whole thing of what ushered them into the playoff. But yes, there are other Alabama teams that were that close and were good enough, talented enough. Certainly nobody wanted to see them. 2010, 13, 19 come to mind in particular. All right. Got Deandre on the line.
What's up, Mark? How you doing today?
I'm good. What's going on?
Well, first off, I looked at Michigan's schedule, and so I think I heard y'all talking about them. And I don't see how Michigan, until they get to Ohio State, probably won't go undefeated. But I think they play Hawaii and Connecticut and Colorado State. And I don't have the book in front of me, but I had looked at their schedule, excuse me, earlier. And I think they're going to go undefeated until they get to Ohio State. Ohio State's schedule, I don't know who said Ohio State got a weak schedule this year, but I was like, wow, with Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Michigan, and a couple other teams up there, I think they have one of the hardest schedules along with Notre Dame this coming up year.
They said that on the SEC network.
Yeah. So I really think they were, I think Michigan's going to go undefeated until they get to Ohio State. I really don't see anybody beating them. I mean, I was always a tricky game on the road. Indiana is not what we thought they were going to be. Illinois, I don't think they're there yet. I mean, I know they got a very good coach, but I don't think that they're going to. I think they're going to be undefeated until they get to Ohio State. To be honest with you, I think they're going to have a pretty good year. And you know how much I hate Michigan. I really do.
Well, we're talking to Michigan, Deandre, because Jim Harbaugh was at Big Ten Media Days on Tuesday, and he said they have 4 goals: beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten championship, win the national championship. That's what Harbaugh said.
Yeah. Well, I think they can do it. I mean, Penn State's pretty good, too. I think they got a bye before that. I looked at their schedule because I did a video on it. But I was going to say something about the last time we talked. There are 2 things I want to address. When the guy said that people don't know NIL, we do know where NIL started at. It started because of the video games. Ed O'Bannon suing because likeness in a game. So, yeah, I do know it. But what I was saying was, let's say Rice, for example. Let's say all of a sudden they start getting 5-star players. We know 5-star players should be going to Rice, right? So, and I'm saying is a lot of times that people with a lot of money will guide kids to that certain school, and that's why they went there. Just like Quentin Euros. Like, he went to Ohio State because Texas wouldn't allow high school kids to play. So he went over to Ohio State, am I correct?
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not the fact that it's not through the school, but those donors are going to say, hey, if you go to this particular school, I will help you out and put you in this NIL deal. Look at Miami right now. I'm not saying Miami hasn't always been good at recruiting, but look at what they're doing right now. They're recruiting like crazy. I mean, they got a top 7 class. I mean, they get defensive linemen that you usually see going to Georgia and Alabama. So, the next question I got for you, we talked about money, and you brought up the cupcake and the, you get $1 million to 300,000. So I wanted to point out 2 factors. Over the last 5 years, you would say Texas makes more money than Wake Forest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Wake Forest over the last 5 years, I'm not talking about history-wise, probably has a similar or better record than Texas. Am I correct?
Better.
Okay. So I would just use that as an example. And what I say that is, McDonald's is a company all over the world. But we can go, I'll come visit you in Connecticut and say, Mark, I bet you could take me to about 10 places better than McDonald's, who's nationwide. And that was my point about people saying, like, oh, the Big Ten and the SEC going to be making all this money, it's going to leave the ACC behind. But like I said, you look at some of the recruiting going on right now, Clemson and Louisville, UNC last year, and Miami are still recruiting at a high level.
So, Deandre, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm disagreeing with is this. Let's say it this way. Let's say all the conferences made an agreement and said, we are not realigning, expanding, poaching from each other. We're staying exactly the way we are.
Right.
Okay. And let's say the ACC continued to cut bad TV deals for whatever reason, and their teams were making $35 million in revenue for the next 15 years, while the Big Ten and the SEC teams were getting $100+ million. Okay. Right. So Clemson, Florida State, all those schools that you just mentioned in the ACC would be at a disadvantage. But we both know that some people do really good at working with a little bit of money, and some people blow a lot of money. So it's not all just about money. You're absolutely right. There's all sorts of, just even beyond the head coach to the athletic director to the actual administration, being very smart and very frugal, being very specific, being very forward thinking in their planning, just doing a lot of things that surpasses money. Yes, money doesn't cure everything. So yes, there is a world in which Clemson, Florida State, Miami, fill in the blank, whomever, could continue to out-recruit, outplay, and do all those things with a much smaller TV cut than Texas and other teams from other conferences. The point that I'm making is that those schools, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, whomever, that have the ability to jump to another conference because they're attractive, would make that jump most likely if they can make 3 times as much money in television revenue every year.
But I agree with you on that. But what attracts kids or people is winning. So why would I go to a harder conference? You see what I'm saying? I know we're going to disagree on this next statement. But let's take Wisconsin and Nebraska. Let's put them on the football field and put Duke and Wake Forest at the same time. Yeah, Wisconsin and Nebraska, when it comes to football, is a bigger brand. But I bet you more people will find Wake Forest and Duke a more entertaining game than Wisconsin and Nebraska. Would you disagree with that argument?
I wouldn't necessarily, but I'm not the average fan.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a random person.
Because the final score is going to be 48-45 and not 17-14.
Yeah, or what game was that? I think it was Iowa was playing somebody to score like 12-0. Like, those night games at Iowa, don't get me wrong. When you have a night game at Iowa and it's on ABC, you're looking for the upset. I mean, they beat Michigan, Penn State, all those. But however,
Ohio State,
most kids today want to see up and down football. Don't get me wrong. Big Ten used to have that reputation of being big and slow. Then Ohio State's is not that anymore. Kids want to play with what Ohio State does. And more of those teams play like Ohio State down in the South now compared to up in the North. And, like I said, they go. NFL can find you anywhere now. I mean, I think Lenore Ryan had a guy go in the second round a couple years ago to the Patriots. Fayetteville State University just had a person go in the third round to Kansas City. The NFL go find you. The purpose of these kids, yes, is supposedly get an education, but we know they want to make it to the NFL. So I'm saying the NFL go find you. So eventually this bubble's going to pop. And I'm going to let you go after this. But I was looking at your Clemson video. I think you were talking about how Clemson might lose to Notre Dame this year. And And that's not the point I want to make, but I would like to point this out. Clemson does have a bye after between Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has a game. So that might help Clemson out. But I would like to point this out, though. Everybody talks about Clemson losing the state. I didn't know this. Will Shipley didn't play that game, and neither did Payne. Clemson lost a lot of transfers at the running back position.
Will Shipley didn't play what game?
Shipley, he got hurt during the state game, midway.
Oh, the NC State game. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I mean, I'm not saying you don't know what would have happened. He could have did like he did in the Pitt game and missed a wide open reception for a touchdown. That still kills me. But I would have said a lot of times, I went back and looked at Wake Forest versus NC State. And I know NC State had a offensive lineman taken by Carolina in the first round. But if you go back and look at that Wake Forest game, they had a lot of trouble blocking people too. So I can't wait to see it. But I think Clemson, I don't know if Clemson's going to lose to Notre Dame, but I think Clemson's set up for having a good year. And the receivers that they have, they got a lot of faster, quicker receivers in the slot this year compared to what they had with Rowe. I think Will Taylor is going to play a big portion into what Clemson does this year. Him and Tony Saloa, however you say his name. And it's going to help those slot receivers. I think the tight end is too. But, hey, Mark, you have a good day, man.
I'm going to make one other comment, Deandre, if I can keep you on the line for one more second. Maybe I can convince you a little bit more on this conference realignment with one more point.
Okay.
The football people aren't making the decisions, though. The football has a lot to do with the decision, but the football people aren't making the decision. So if the Clemson administration, for example, sees that over a 10-year span, we're going to make $350 million in television revenue, but if we go to the Big Ten, we're going to make $1 billion in television revenue, 100 million times 10, then that's most likely going to be the decision that's going to be made.
Can I say something to rebuttal to that?
Sure.
Okay, the guy that you had on, the football money, we look at it from a football point of view.
Yeah.
But the guy said that what they make in football, all schools, is really just a drop in the bucket. Outside of places like Alabama and Kansas State and Oklahoma State, like Cal and Stanford. I don't know what Clemson's known for technology. Yeah. Agriculture. But what I'm saying is, if it's about research and all of that, why would you care how long your football team is with it? Because for what he explained is, like USC going over to Rutgers to play, the reason why that would be attractive because they can have their meetings to attract the best minds, and those are the ones that make the money for the school. So I'm just saying, I get what you're saying, but I really see, like, let's say Texas A&M played at the SEC at the ACC, they probably would have more national championships than what they have right now. Texas A&M would have, because they would have better talent than everybody but Clemson. You know what I'm saying? The Texas A&M to me hurt themselves by going to the SEC. I know their program probably made more money, but they had to go against Alabama, LSU, Auburn, sometimes Ole Miss, and then you had to draw Georgia or Florida. So you made yourself harder than what it was. And they would have stayed in that Big 12. Who would you have to deal with? Texas on the downturn and Oklahoma, maybe Baylor every now and then. You would have been in a better position than me to win a national championship. I mean, their program still brings in a whole lot of money, but still, I'm just saying.
All right, Deandre. I appreciate it.
All right,
have a good day.
Good.
All right. Talking of college football with all of you here, the Voice of College Football. Please check out, as Deandre mentioned, we posted a Clemson preview and prediction. And I would like to do more, but the incentive, of course, needs to be there. I think you know what that means. Therefore, in past off seasons, I have just rolled out a slew of previews and predictions. Everybody, I've just posted video after video after video after video after video after video of my Duke preview and prediction, my Wake Forest preview and prediction, my Oregon State preview and prediction. Those days are over. I don't want them to be over, but they're over if nobody watches the videos. So we threw out a Clemson preview and prediction video that was posted yesterday. If you're interested in me doing more previews and predictions, then please get the video out there into traffic. Share the video, and I will do more previews and predictions. If not, what you're going to see is about 2 or 3 days before the season, we're going to do a big preview show, and I'm going to unveil all my predictions. But if you would like to see team previews and predictions, if you caught the Clemson preview, thought we did a pretty decent job of analyzing the Clemson football team for this year. So check out the video, and unveiled our prediction on Clemson. Okay. Yes, Cameron. Thank you for your appreciation of me posting all those videos. But again, we can't operate like that anymore, unfortunately. If I could just post everything that I wanted to, and then somebody would just hand me a salary of X number of dollars every year, then I would just do that. I would not necessarily care that much what I was posting. I would just post college football previews and go nuts. Schedule previews, go nuts. But when I post certain types of content and it doesn't get a response, then obviously that's not good for business. I got to stop. Not just because it's a waste of my time, but also because it's going to hurt the channel. Because if you post a video that doesn't get a response, then YouTube suppresses your other videos. So I can't post videos that don't get a response. So I guess, you know what I probably should do? Is back after USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten, we had a slew of great videos that came out talking about Notre Dame possibly joining the Big Ten, and Oregon and Washington possibly joining the Big Ten, and what is the Big 12 going to do? And I lined up the ACC candidates for the Big Ten and the SEC, and I posted about 8 or 10 consecutive videos that just blew up, 20, 30,000 views. I could keep doing that. I could speculate all day. I could be posting videos every day. Could this team join the Big 12? Could that team join the ACC? What's the Big 12 going to do? What's the Pac-12 going to do? I could be doing that every day, all day. I don't find a whole lot of value in it myself, but yeah. Mr. Jones, have any of those people you tweeted agreed to come on the show? Yeah, so we had a big tweet fest a couple of weeks ago in which I said, who do you want on the show? Let's tweet them. So the one response I got was from Kevin Sumlin. So Kevin Sumlin followed me on Twitter and said that he would come on the show. And I said, great. And asked him, what available times and dates do you have? And then I didn't hear anything else from him. The other person is Andy Staples, who we did have on. We recorded a show with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was an excellent guest. Those are the two that come to mind. There might have been others. Yeah, Vandy Dandy. That's I'm not going to call it clickbait, but that's what I'm talking about. So there was a legitimate story, obviously, maybe the biggest story in college football, at least for the last year, when USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. So we took that topic on to say, obviously, this is what we're talking about. And you guys responded with tons and tons of views. And I basically, when a situation like that happens, I then pursue anything that I think is a legitimate next step, a legitimate story, a legitimate topic, like Notre Dame joining the Big Ten. So, boom, I posted a video about that. What is the Big 12 going to do? Who are their candidates? What are their options? Posted a video on that. What about the ACC candidates for the Big Ten or the SEC? Lined those up, posted a video. I did about 8 or 10 of those. And then I figured, okay, I've posted just about everything that's reasonable, that makes sense. But to your point, I'm not going to comment on anybody else's decisions to post videos. But yeah, I could do that endlessly. I could say, what if Arizona and Arizona State joined the Big 12? And then I could lay out a video of how the Big 12 could divide its divisions, and this is what would happen. And then I could the next day say, if Colorado and Utah join the Big 12, there's endless content there. And maybe that's what I should do. All right. Looks like we got Carl on the line.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. What's going on?
Well, so I'm actually at work right now, but so I heard the whole Michigan State thing, and I'll tell you what, I'm a big Michigan fan, and I'll root for Michigan State every now and then, as long as you're not playing them, you know.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand the cockiness that comes out of the Michigan State fan base. I'll give them credit where it's due. You beat us 2 years in a row under Mel Tucker. Congratulations. But let's think about it. We had a bad COVID year. Every team in the nation had players sitting out. It was bad. And then last year, good job. You beat us on a very fluky play. Talking about the Aiden Hutchinson fumble overturn in the end zone.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you know, as far as Harbaugh's statement of, the 4 goals, I think 3 out of the 4 are attainable. I actually agree with Steve Dace's prediction, except for the Ohio State part. I do think Michigan will make the college football playoff with Ohio State, except we're going to be the ones to lose to Ohio State. We'll go 11-1 in the regular season, and I'm actually hoping for a rematch in the playoff. What are your thoughts?
Well, that would be phenomenal. So back to the Michigan State thing. So if I'm a Michigan State fan, and I think you can understand this, put your fandom over there, and I know that's like makes you want to throw up, but think about being a Michigan State fan. I believe this is the number. They've won 10 of the last 14 in the series.
Correct.
And they, during D'Antonio's run, had better teams for most of that time. And even though Michigan won the Big Ten championship, went to the playoff, they were the one team to get Michigan again. And in terms of the results in 2020 being valid or not valid, I think that there are all sorts of considerations that need to be made for 2020. And I think there are a lot of valid disclaimers. I won't call them excuses for what happened in 2020, but we still put together a college football season that counted. So the game counted, and it's on Michigan State and Mel Tucker's record. He's 2-0. They're coming off an 11-2 year. They've beat Michigan 10 out of 14. They're going to get excited about that because they are the second. They are the second program.
They're the big brother in the sense over the last 20 years. I was going to say
that, but I'm leaving that to you. There you go.
Well, I mean, facts are the facts. I don't think the I give Mark D'Antonio his credit, but I mean, what's Jim Harbaugh 4-3 against Michigan State, I believe, now after that last loss. I don't think that's terrible. I mean, considering where Jim Harbaugh brought Michigan back from, 5-7 team in 2014 to 10-2 team, and now a Big Ten championship run. But those are just my takes. I'll get off here and let the next caller on.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Love to see new callers. That's always good to see. Appreciate the old callers, of course. You guys are the backbone of what we do. And our great support here, but especially like to see those new callers, because I have no idea when Carl calls up like that. Like, did he just find us yesterday? I should have asked him, because I get curious about that. Did he just jump on board yesterday or last football season or 5 years ago? Or always curious about that. But Michigan fan Carl putting down little brother. Big brother, little brother. At what point does Michigan State not be little brother? Is that like a permanent designation? Big brother, Michigan, little brother, Michigan State? Or is there a point at which Michigan State is not little brother anymore because they're winning a zillion times more than Michigan? I'll leave that up to the green and white and the maize and blue. So this always have problems with your handle there. Harbaugh's 3-4. Okay. Well, we know he's lost the last two. We know that he lost that ridiculous punt situation in 2015. And then they must have lost in 2017 would be my other guess for a loss, because his first year was 2015. They lost. They didn't lose in 16. 17 was probably the other loss because Michigan went 8-5 and then the last 2 years. So 3-4 Harbaugh, that's not acceptable against Michigan State. Next up on the Voice of College Football, a big announcement about our new offering of Denison football, Division 8. Okay. Caffeined is letting us know that Michigan State will always be little brother, regardless of what happens. Smaller school, smaller town, smaller donor base. Also, Sparty fans are generally insufferable, like an annoying little brother. Just saying. Yeah, one scoop, John. The Michigan State record needs to get a whole lot better. Okay. Will's going to let us know what the deal is.
Is Jim Harbaugh the John Cooper of Michigan? That's what I'm wondering. What do you think, Mark?
So far, yes.
So far? But for Michigan this year, I think that they have a chance. I do think they have a legitimate chance. Like, as good a chance as Notre Dame does of beating Ohio State this year, I would think. What do you say so, or what do you say? Like, I'm trying to be fair as a Notre Dame fan, but do you think Michigan has a better or worse chance?
Well, you're looking at two ends of the schedule. So you're looking at right out of the gate versus how are these teams going to develop and prepare 12 or 13 weeks later. So they could be significantly different teams. I think Notre Dame's got an opportunity against Ohio State's revamped defense to catch a new defensive coordinator implementing a new defense with different players in week 1.
Yeah, and me and John have talked about this a bit, and I know John's here. But I really think that Harbaugh's got to pull the plug and start J.J. McCarthy. If they want to reach their goals, I think they got to plug in J.J. McCarthy as the starter, at least during the Maryland game as the permanent starter, because I think they have a much better chance of losing to Michigan State and Penn State if they keep Cade in and don't put J.J. in.
So if you know, as Jim Harbaugh, you know you're going to eventually replace McNamara with JJ. If you know you're going to do that, why does it seem like most people think that you do this in some sort of like transitional way and you pick a spot during the season and then you do it? Why allow Cade McNamara to play well for 5 or 6 games and J.J. McCarthy to get only limited action in those 5 or 6 games, which doesn't help him in his skill set and development? If you know J.J.'s the guy, start him in game 1.
Yeah, like it just doesn't make sense what Jim Harbaugh is doing right now. Are you trying to just shoot your team in the foot? I don't get
No,
it.
no. I am saying that it doesn't make sense what people are suggesting. I don't know what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. He's left it open to say these two are going to battle in camp. He may call JJ the game one starter.
Oh, you think you will? Well, I don't know. Like everyone's thinking.
No, I don't think anything.
But
I'm
you could
telling
be
you
right.
that we don't know. He's left it out there that he is making a decision during fall camp.
Okay. Well,
But it seems like everybody I talk to makes a similar suggestion than what you made, that whether it's to make, I don't know whether the thought process is to make Cade feel better or what the deal is, but why, if you're already having this plan to supplant him, why would you give him the opportunity to play really well? If Cade McNamara after 6 games has 18 touchdown passes and 1 pick, how are you just going to pull the plug on him?
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but like JJ McCarthy has the higher ceiling, and you're playing bad teams. Like,
I understand what you're saying. So you should make that determination before the season starts. Yeah. Why allow Cade McNamara the opportunity to play well, and then you've got no justification to yank him?
Yeah, I understand. Well, I don't like being anticlimactic, but I gotta go. But
okay, well. Will usually hitting us up on the run there. Good to see Will. All right. On the schedule today, we go to Michigan Podcast at 3 o'clock this afternoon to talk Michigan football, of course, on Michigan Podcast. And then more Michigan football. Man, it is a Michigan day at the Voice of College Football. This is centered on Michigan. Then we've got a Michigan Podcast spot this afternoon. Then at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, Michigan Live. Florida State at 6, Miami at 7. That's the rundown here at the Voice of College Football today. I will let you know a day in advance because many of you miss the schedule posts that I leave every morning. Every morning, usually late the night before, so it's ready for you early birds first thing in the morning. The live schedule update is delivered every morning right on the community page, right here on the Voice of College Football for each day. And the reason I bring that up, that I'm going to send the word out early, is at 11 a.m. on Thursday, tomorrow, Thursday, 11 a.m., Phil Steele right here. So we got 118 on the line. Hopefully a few thousand will watch this eventually. Phil Steele live here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. Bring your comments and questions. Don't know how long I'm going to have him. Minimum 15 minutes, probably up to 30 minutes, which is typical for Phil Steele when we've had him on before. And I'm in a position where my Phil Steele magazine is locked up in a box on a moving truck. So I haven't even reviewed his publication this year, but I know what it's all about because I've seen it for a zillion years. But I do not have the 22 version, and I am woefully behind in my research for 22. So many things going on. But Phil Steele live, 11 a.m. I was going to record it, but then I thought, you know what? Last year we went live. We'll do it again this year. Maybe I'll jump on at 10:45 in the morning. Phil Steele comes on. We'll bring him on live. And again, be ready with your comments and questions for Phil Steele. Thursday, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Yeah, RW, you could hear that, right? Yes. Which reminds me, I've not eaten anything today. Harbaugh is not Cooper. Cooper was losing games against Michigan when Ohio State was undefeated and the better team. Also, Jim Harbaugh never got shut out versus Ohio State like Cooper. So there are similarities, and then there are not similarities. Jim Harbaugh losing to Ohio State, now 1-5, correct? 2015, 16, 17, 18. Yes, 1-5. John Cooper 2-10-1 against Michigan. That's the comparison. Losing to your rival consistently, losing to the rival in the game consistently. That's the comparison between Cooper and Harbaugh. But much to D2, K2, J's point here, John Cooper, starting in 1993, 93, 95, 96, 97, 98, all those seasons had national championship expectations, national championship chances, and lost to Michigan, and would lose to Michigan teams that were 7-4. 1993, I may be off on some of these records slightly, but probably not. 1993, Ohio State 10-0-1. Does still have a shot at that point at a national championship, possibly. 10-0-1, lose to Michigan, 7-4 Michigan. I believe a 6-4 Michigan team that needed the Ohio State win to finish 7-4 in the regular season. Michigan wins 28-0 to DK's point. 1995, Ohio State loaded, great offense, 11-0, go to Michigan, get trampled by, again, I believe a 7-3 Michigan team. 1996, Ohio State 10-0, Michigan 7-3, 6-4. They were 7-3 or 6-4 just about all those seasons in which they knocked out undefeated Ohio State teams. Ohio State 1993 10-0-1, 95 11-0, 96 10-0, 98. Ohio State won the game. That was the Michigan State year in which the Michigan State game spoiled Ohio State's national championship aspirations. Should it have? That's a conversation for another day, and we've certainly had it here a number of times because there were six teams with one loss in 1998 that could have played and been matched up against Tennessee. And the BCS formula chose the team that had arguably the worst loss, Florida State, 24-7 to NC State. All right, so those are the comparisons between Cooper and what Harbaugh is doing. Yes, Harbaugh is not always bringing the better favored team against Ohio State. 2015, they were about even. The point spread was almost even. Buckeyes blew them out. 2016, Ohio State, Michigan, they were just about even. They were like 2-3 in the polls. 2017, Ohio State playing for a Big Ten championship. Michigan, 8-3 at that point. So more like this. Good Michigan team, decent Michigan team, Ohio State team going to the Big Ten championship with a shot at the playoff. And the Buckeyes blew them out, or did not blow them out, beat them late. That was the Dwayne Haskins game, of course, 3rd and 18 with, oh my goodness. I drew a blank on the receiver. Help me out, folks. 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, early fourth quarter, Ohio State, Michigan, 2017. Oh my goodness. That's crazy that I blanked on the name. Yes, Eric, I'm losing it. That's driving me nuts. I've only said his name about 8,000 times in my life. And I bring this play up a couple times a year. Okay. Nobody's helping me. I am going nuts on this. Who was that? Oh, shoot. I have an A in my head. Like his name started. Is somebody going to help me with it, or am I going to get it before somebody gets it? Who made the catch against Michigan in 2017? Where's the game summary? I didn't find it yet, but I think I got it. Austin Mack. Why am I blanking? And why don't they have this play in the game recap? Horrible game recap, ESPN. Pathetic. Austin Mack, right? Did I get it? Yeah. It was that touchdown, right? Haskins. Austin Mack. Yes. Thank you. I'm not completely losing it. It just took me a minute to remember his name. Man. Okay. Never heard of him. Well, he killed your team, Lewis, in 2017. All right. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. It sounds like, based on a couple of comments there in the live chat, that I should start digging into conference realignment talk and expansion talk again. Because, man, let's see here. This is what I'm seeing, folks. This is what I'm seeing. This is what you're telling me. This is what you're telling me. So USC, UCLA joined the Big Ten. I cut a video on Notre Dame joining the Big Ten, 34,000 views. I cut a video on Oregon going to the Big Ten and who else could join them, 24,000 views. I broke down the new Big Ten divisions / pods, what it could look like, scheduling, 26,000 views. I posted a video, who is the best Pac-12 candidate to join the Big Ten? 20,000 views. Big 12, make this move video, 17,000 views. Sizing up ACC candidates for the SEC and the Big Ten, 17,000 views. UCLA versus the Big Ten, and that was pretty much the last one. Yeah, that was pretty much the last one. And then in terms of live streams, let me see this. As soon as the news broke, USC, UCLA to the Big Ten, I can't even count the views because I posted this and simulcasted on a number of channels, the Michigan, Ohio State channels, USC channel, etc. It had like 25,000, 30,000 views. We did an Oregon live, 10,000 views. College Football's New World, 14,000 views. How valuable are college football programs? 16,000 views. ACC Pac-12 merger live stream, 11,000 views. Okay. All right. I just told you about 15 plus live streams videos that got anywhere from 15,000 to 35,000 views based on expansion and realignment. And then here in the last few days, I post a Clemson preview and prediction video. Told you what I believed Clemson was going to do this year with a exhaustive, thorough preview of the team and prediction. 900 views. And then last night I posted what my take was on the Kevin Warren Big Ten. You know, we're talking about important situations in the Big Ten. Kevin Warren talks about the commissioner of the Big Ten, about what's going on in the Big Ten. Nobody watching that video. So, man, I guess I'll just have to speculate on expansion and realignment. And that's what we're going to do all the time. I can't say I totally understand it. Thank you for posting the Wednesday schedule, Eric. You know what I forgot in all that? Yes, we've got a Penn State Live coming up. We are doing a series where we are going live, doing fall camp previews live. We did Texas A&M yesterday. We've got Penn State tonight at 9 Eastern. So J Dub is letting me know, Mark, we have tried to talk realignment with you and you kept changing topics. I posted 20 videos on realignment and they're all doing great. So I guess I just can't talk about that enough. I guess I'll just keep talking about realignment. I guess I'm going to talk about that every day. I'm going to do a test in the next couple of days. And we're going to do a test on that. And I am just going to continue with speculation and it's basically speculation. And then it's also how I would align college football, how I would align the divisions. If Oregon and Washington join the Big Ten, this is what I would do. Lay it out. If the Big 12 expanded to Utah, Colorado, Arizona State, this is what I would do. Lay it out. Okay. Yes, Michael. Right here and also on the Penn State channel. We've got a Penn State channel. Please subscribe. It's going to be simulcasted both here and on the Penn State channel at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Will is sick of the realignment talk and the expansion talk because he's a Notre Dame fan. But it seems like nobody else is sick of that. LBC Trojan, thank you for the full TV revenue share of the Big Ten. Oh, okay. You're talking about USC. Yes. Gotcha. That's that you can thank Kevin Warren for that. Is it the algorithm? Is that why the views are so different? Well, basically, from what I understand, if you post a video and you get a lot of momentum early with that video, and maybe I should put a premiere out there, is that YouTube picks up on that and then they push the video out. So that's my understanding of that YouTube will pick it up and push the video if you get an initial surge of momentum, and then it just feeds off itself and keeps going. As opposed to you release a video, 50 people watch it in the first hour, YouTube's like, nobody's watching this anyway, so we're not going to push it, and it dies. So that's what I had go on this morning, apparently, with and then that hurts the next video because then YouTube's like, well, I'm not going to push the next video because this one died. YouTube is in the business of keeping people on the platform. No. All right. Appreciate everybody being here. Voice of College Football continues at 5 Eastern with Michigan Live on the Michigan channel, Florida State at 6, Miami at 7, Penn State at 9, a special live stream fall camp preview on the Nittany Lions. We will see you all in just a couple hours. Thanks for being here.